an order unlike any in modern US history. Secretary of War Hegseth summons hundreds of generals and admirals to Quantico. No agenda, no answers. Officers uprooted, security stretched, and speculation raging. Is it strategy, reform, or loyalty test? Washington whispers, Moscow watches, and the stakes could not be higher. US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has called an unprecedented gathering of senior US military officers next week at Quantico in Virginia. According to multiple officials familiar with the plans, the meeting will bring together hundreds of generals and admirals from around the world, upending previously scheduled duties and creating uncertainty among attendees. One US official said personnel are scrambling to adjust travel and operational plans to accommodate the sudden directive. The Pentagon confirmed that Hegseth will address senior military leaders early next week. Chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell stated the Secretary of War will speak to his top commanders, but declined to provide additional details about the meeting, including its purpose or the exact number of officers expected.
The Secretary of War will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week.
The announcement follows a series of sweeping personnel changes within the US military under Hegseth, who has moved quickly to implement directives from the Trump administration. Earlier this year, he ordered reductions in the number of 4-star generals by 20% and directed additional cuts among general and flag officers across the force, including in the National Guard. Hegseth has also relieved several high-ranking officers, including the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the heads of the Navy and Coast Guard, and senior intelligence officials, often without explanation. Observers note that convening so many senior officers in one location is rare and raises both logistical and security concerns, particularly given the global deployment of US forces. The meeting has prompted speculation about its objectives, ranging from equipment briefings to broader strategic reviews, but officials emphasize that the exact agenda remains unclear, with no additional information provided by the Pentagon at this time. Mark F. Kansian, a retired colonel in the US Marine Corps Reserve and senior advisor with the Defence and Security Department at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, has analysed the unprecedented gathering of US flag and general officers called by Hegseth. While the Pentagon has confirmed the event, the precise number of attendees remains uncertain. Even if fewer than 800 attend, the scale is without precedent in modern US military practice. Typically, senior officers meet for specific purposes, such as annual sessions with combatant commanders or service-level flag officer conferences. What distinguishes this gathering is not only its size, but also the secrecy surrounding it. Planning has reportedly been underway in classified spaces, yet officers ordered to travel, in some cases thousands of miles, have not been told the purpose. Speculation focuses on several possibilities. Hegseth is reportedly about to release a new national defence strategy that may shift emphasis to homeland security, a notable change from the recent priority on China and Russia. Another possibility is structural reform, with rumours of merging the European and African Command or the Northern and Southern Command. Hegseth may also use the occasion to press his leadership team to align with his vision, signalling that dissent will not be tolerated.
And I mean no one, even senior-level generals who have been directed to travel, in some cases, 1,000s of miles for this meeting, have been told yet what the purpose of the meeting is. In talking to more than a dozen sources, nobody we talked to had ever heard of anything like this in their 30, 35-year-old careers. This really is rare. When you're pulling this much leadership, this much talent in one place, it at least raises the concern, what if something were to happen? The Pentagon has a highly sensitive video teleconferencing ability. They hold meetings all the time virtually, so that there's really no sense for why you would need everybody in person.
Khanchan emphasises that bringing such a concentration of senior leaders to one location creates enormous logistical and security challenges for Quantico and risks leaving temporary command gaps worldwide. While acting commanders will remain in place, the sheer scale of absences could expose vulnerabilities. He concludes that the symbolic weight of assembling the entire leadership in person may be the real purpose, though it remains unclear why secure video conferencing was not used instead. Meanwhile, as Hegseth summoned us generals and admirals, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov described his country as being at war with NATO and the European Union, citing their support for Ukraine in the ongoing conflict. Speaking at a G20 ministerial meeting on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, Lavrov said NATO and the EU had effectively declared a war on Russia and were actively participating in it.
The refusal to comply with the United Nations Charter's principles is a manifestation of neo-colonial ambitions, which leads to the growth of global instability and multiplies regional conflicts. For decades, numerous crises in Africa have not been resolved, in many cases inherited from colonial times, when borders were drawn out arbitrarily, without any consideration of ethno-confessional factors. Another clear example is the crisis in Ukraine provoked by the West, which NATO and the European Union have declared a real war on my country and directly in it. The unilateral economic sanctions, which very much violate the UN Charter, the tariff wars, and the direct blackmail of international trade participants, in the huge violation of the norms of the Global Trade Organization. All of this not only hits the most vulnerable, unprotected layers of the population, but also in general poses a serious threat to the global economy by fragmentation of markets and supply chain disruptions. The G20 should focus on economic plots, just like it used to be, without trying to preempt the issues of the military-political agenda at the expense of the prerogative of the UN and its Security Council.
Lavrov framed the conflict as a response to what he described as Western provocations, including economic sanctions and international trade restrictions, and linked the war to broader global instability. He argued that unilateral measures by Western countries not only harm vulnerable populations, but also disrupt global markets and supply chains. Lavrov's remarks come shortly after US President Donald Trump signaled a shift in his approach to the war, suggesting that Ukraine could reclaim territory occupied by Russia and urging NATO allies to take defensive action against Russian drones and aircraft. British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper dismissed Lavrov's claims as false distortions, while European officials, including Kaja Kallas, reiterated the need for continued international pressure on Moscow. Lavrov made no reference to Trump's recent statements, instead emphasizing Russia's view that Western actions had provoked the conflict that began with Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022.